in every lifetime comes a love like this. Oh, I need you, you need me. Oh, my darling, can't you see? Young ones, darling, we're the young ones. The young ones shouldn't be afraid to live, love. There's a song to be sung, 'cause we may not be the young ones very long.
You know, I'm sure there are a lot of psychologists who would claim that my current hobby of making fun of other people's films is my way of coping with the fact that I myself am guilty of making a bad film. But to the people who say that, I think Sad Panda provided my perfect response back in 2011.
I can call this a movie, that would be a blasphemy. Let's call it Morganars.
That is a very meaningful clip, because Sad Panda is actually talking about Suburban Nights, the Nostalgia Critic's second feature film which partly inspired me to make HOBOGEDDON. And that clip is from Forget About It, which is the internet show that inspired me to make my own review media stuffs and upload it onto the internet show. Anyway, the point I'm making is that HOBOGEDDON isn't just a film. It is so much less than a film.
Get to the bloody point!
HOBOGEDDON is a film.
It's a film, if you can call it that. Just.
I don't even know how to describe it.
Peter and Norrie wanted to make it in college, and I was their friend, and I helped out with the film. I'm in it for a good third of the film, the last third, I believe.
It has moving pictures. About as close as it gets.
It's been a long time since I've seen it. I don't know if I watched it after it came out. It is essentially a tale of a man and his boy, by which I mean a man and his butler. Emphasis on the butt. And Dan Butt was in it. No, we can cut all that.
If you catch me on a good day, I'll say that HOBOGEDDON is a piece of entertainment. It's got some good jokes in it, it's also got a lot of not very good jokes. Sir, why don't you go into the kitchen and make our guests some refreshments?
But I don't know how to make refreshments.
Refreshments, sir, refreshments.
Oh yeah.
If you ask me about HOBOGEDDON when I'm in a bad mood, I'll tell you that it is a cringeworthy piece of crap, on par with Cool Cat Saves the Kids and Birdemic. The main difference that those films are so bad they're good.
HOBOGEDDON is a train wreck.
What a bloody waste of time this has turned out to be. It's about two hobos trying to get by in life, and then are actually completely insane and have severe mental problems.
Cheat their way into some free food by pretending to be starving to death, that kind of thing. Take a ludicrously cheap flat and then attempt to essentially steal that by leaving before rent is up.
Who think they can then take over the world by stealing random stuff from people's houses.
And then the robbery goes tits up.
And then there's a second half too, and it's a cracker. I don't know what happens, but it's a cracker.
I think that was the premise. It kind of just, after a while, you're just there like, what am I doing? What's going on?
My life has taken a rather dark turn. I mean, what happens in the film is now pretty much my life. Don't be such a crybaby.
This film was my baby, and you know what? I should have aborted it. Or at least raised it very differently.
We made something. Which, in all fairness, I think is pretty hilarious.
It was actually kind of cool, quite proud of it in the end, for some reason.
Two of us met by chance 2 years ago, and been firm friends ever since.
I couldn't have summed up our relationship any better, sir.
Shut up.
The four of us had just started our second year of college, and the first year in the video production course had concluded with a make-your-own-short film assignment. And Peter and I had such fun making that because we just threw in everything that we felt was really funny at the time. We're going to dig a tunnel.
With what? The spoon?
Don't be foolish. Use the brown sauce.
Let's just shove shit we love in it. Pretty much this is an ensemble of stuff that we liked and just shoved into a film.
Iced fish caused the accident.
The film had 3 titles: The Dead, the Stupid, and the Funny Hats, The Dead, the Stupid, and the Peter, and Rise of the Naughty Zombies. Based on the 3rd title, that gives you an idea of what actually happens in the film, and based on the first 2 titles, that gives you an idea about the level of humour that the film contained.
You only told me the punchline.
There's no pleasing you, is there? And much to our surprise, we got a good grade from it. The teacher really liked it, although I'm pretty sure that was just because he wanted to have his quota of students getting good grades, so it made him look like a better teacher. And meanwhile, our fellow students, although when we screened it there really wasn't any laughter, they at least acknowledged that they enjoyed how bizarrely creative it was. So that summer we were riding the high of, yay, we did something we really liked and other people enjoyed it too, so let's make a new film, let's make an actual film. Please stop talking.
Nori had plans to make an actual film about a robber and hobos, and I was just like, fuck yeah, I'm up for that.
And I've only just recently realised this, that in addition to the plot of Hobogeddon, during my high school years I'd written 3 plays, only one of which was actually made. And they all involved crime shenanigans, basically, with incompetent crooks or incompetent detectives. I don't know why I seem to latch on to that genre, shall we say, of storytelling, but there it is, and I repeated it a 4th time with Hobogeddon.
Well done, Jeffrey. I thought up that plan ages ago. Just seeing how long it took you to come up with it too.
It was very much influenced by Norrie and his writing style and favourite kind of shows, and that would be slapstick humour, that kind of thing. Boston is obviously an example, Young Ones, that kind of thing, Rip Mail humour. Other comedians are available.
After we'd finished filming, George and Peter pointed out to me, you do realise you've just ripped off So Digby Chicken Caesar sketches. And I said, that name rings a bell. What's that about? When I was still in school, I discovered those sketches from the Mitchell and Webb look and thought they were hilarious. But when it came a couple of years later to making Hobogeddon, and even just sitting down and coming up with the concept of it, I'd completely forgotten, the comical tales of 2 tramps acting like they're part of the aristocracy.
We can melt the batteries down and drink it.
Excellent! We can borrow a Bunsen from my old school.
As it was Norrie's idea, his influences for the film were older style things, like Laurel and Hardy, and Steptoe and Son. Whereas my influences were more like Mighty Boosh and things up to date, including Bottom for both of us. That was one of the biggest influences.
Rick fucking Mail. Oh, well, who gives a fuck about him? The cunt's dead anyway.
They were borrowed jokes. There were a lot of influences from, like Rick Mail and Ed Edmondson.
Physical jokes like this.
Heads or tails?
Tails.
I'm sorry, not tails.
But originally, what had inspired me were 2 characters from the 1950s radio series The Goon Show. The 2 characters were Gribpipe Finn and Count Jim Moriarty, played by Peter Sellers and Spike Milligan. Throughout the majority of the series, they were sort of scheming businessmen, police officers, generals, and by the end of the series, they're basically homeless, they were tramps. There would be jokes and comments about the fact that, they'd enter a scene and say, "We were just drinking out of the horse trough when we heard the news." They'd be living at the town dump. They'd be living up a crow's nest, up a flagpole.
It was heavily influenced by that, and also by Peter's general sort of madness as a person, which we all definitely thought was fine and didn't try to get him arrested more than once.
Back to the bone!
I did say to Peter and George, I'd like to make this as a proper feature-length film, but it's quite an ambitious thing to go ahead with. What do you think? Should we try and just do something shorter?
No, I don't feel comfortable doing that.
But they both said, no, let's go for it. Let's make an actual film. That sounds really cool. So, not that I'm trying to pass the blame onto them, but I'm passing the blame onto them.
I fucking knew this would happen.
Aggie was supposed to be played by a man called Dan, and then I replaced Dan.
Our college chum Daniel was supposed to be in the film. Actually, to call him a chum is a bit strong. He was more like a stalker whom we tolerated. I thought, well, who can be in the film? How many characters can I put? It was afterwards I decided, well, everyone can play 2 characters.
Did I play Mrs. Fitzsimmons' son? I don't remember. I remember Velociraptor. I forgot that.
I wish I could have involved some of the people I went to school with, but unfortunately they were back in mid-Scotland and I was living in the bottom of England.
Shut it!
So when it came to the first 2 days of filming, Dan didn't show up. And he also didn't answer his phone. And he also didn't apologise. Like, bastard!
He was like, oh, going to Nora's house is too far, lol.
I just said, alright, no. I'm not making the film with him in the role. We need someone else. But the question was, well, who? I went and asked my sister. I said, can you help us out here? Can you play this character? And she declined, obviously. After a few weeks, I got tired of waiting for George to ask one of his friends to be in the film.
I had the biggest social group outside of the film at the time of filming.
Good for you.
About this time, we'd begun to become friends with 2 girls from our college course, Gina and Amy. I don't know whether I thought, oh, well, Dan had glasses, so let's go with someone who's got glasses. Maybe.
Nora was like, I'm making a film, do you want to be in it? I was like, okay. Yeah. I want to make films as well.
We didn't know her as well as we knew each other, so she was a friend called in to help, but it was a bit kind of like weird to bring her in. Not that she was out of place or anything like that.
We'd filmed and I'd edited the first scene. It's the scene where Nigel and Jeffrey first attempt to rob a house. And so I sent her a link to it, saying this is the kind of thing we're doing. And surprisingly, not only did she say she thought it was very funny, that confirmed it for her that she would want to be in the film.
Well, she liked The League of Gentlemen. At the time, I didn't get it because I hadn't seen it. But after watching it, I was like, that's funny, yes. She was okay to work with. Sounds dirty.
Despite literally trying to kill people, she ended up being more trustworthy than Dan, who I trusted with our radio project, and he was a cunt.
I second that.
Oh yeah, George, it's fine, I'll sort it out next day. Why do I have to do it, George? Oh, don't worry, Dan. I'll do all your work for you, Dan.
A lot of what Nori had written in the script, he had to scribble out Dan and put my name. So, my role was kind of written for a man, but I made it a female role.
To Amy's credit, she gave a good performance, I think. She seemed to take it quite seriously, unlike the 3 boys surrounding her.
You see, I'm afraid Mrs. Fitzsimmons and her son have just had a very tragically violent accident. I needed to check this gun was loaded, and my aim was still satisfactory.
Amy's part in it was surprisingly major, She played two characters, didn't she? Yeah. For someone who wasn't a huge part of production, she played quite a big part in it. And she really went for it and seemed to have a really good time. Hashtag arrest Daniel Butt.
Allow me to introduce this.
In the film I played Sir Nigel Winston Handbasket.
Voted Actor of the Year by Mrs. Mabel Fumes, and often mistaken for a bit of sludge washed up onto dry land.
He is clearly a fucking insane nutjob who should be locked away in a mental asylum because he has absolutely no clue of how anything works and is completely deranged.
They'll pay us to wash their cars, and in turn, we won't bash their heads in with a boomerang.
He's the one who's trying to take over the world by stealing items from like people's houses. Clearly that won't work, but as I said before, he's a complete fucking deranged nutjob.
Peter seemed to actually play his characters in real life. He seems mental in the film, but he is mental.
I don't deserve heated food anymore. I'm not painting the picture that HOBOGEDDON destroyed our lives.
Of the quartet of actors, I think I might have had the easiest job, in that Jeffrey is quite similar to my own personality, and in regards to just being able to keep a straight face, that's something I can do quite well.
That's true.
Peter definitely couldn't have played Jeffrey, he, cannot keep a straight face. I guess I could say Jeffrey's a caricature of me.
Hi, I'm Ivy and I'm not a serial killer.
Ivy is psychotic, psychopathic, antisocial, crazy. All the adjectives.
You, Dickface McGee.
Ah yes, they call me Velociraptor. Remember thinking the name was weird, but I wasn't super on board with the name. Not because I was going to turn it down or anything like that, but I remember thinking that's all. We've got Nigel and Jeffrey and Velociraptor.
Who? Me, you dumbass.
And obviously didn't give a shit about anybody. Possibly even himself. He was the Joker of HOBOGEDDON.
You must be mad.
Most of my shots I look like this.
My other character I played is Lupin.
I'm not surprised you passed out. Eating a banoffee pie at this time in the morning. Got some kind of death wish.
Well, I discovered the videos of Gertelish years before. They were some of the first videos I found on YouTube.
What are you going to do? Tie Miss McGonagall up in bubble wrap and start hitting her with a wet haddock? It's not 1954, for fuck's sake.
Although none of the other characters were, say, normal, Lupin was the strangest of the bunch because everything he said was completely irrelevant.
Ah, yes, your father's nipples. I could talk about them for a few days.
So I can't remember. It was likely me who said, why don't we just put Lupin in HOBOGEDDON?
I've been ping pong champion for 17 years. I think I have the right to wear tits around my bollocks.
It was just fun to have a character in there who's literally had no place being there.
And I asked Gertelish, I sent him a message saying, we're making a film, do you mind if we use your character and the lines from it? And he said, yeah, that was absolutely fine.
He was just there, mainly just for our own pleasure. I mean, we just loved the dubs at the time.
Don't be an omelette all your life.
I also played Patricia.
You boys feeling better yet? Hold on. I didn't give you a chocolate bar.
Patricia's Pie and Mash Shop. With my Dorset accent.
We'd originally just thought, oh, well, we'll see if we can find a Burger King that does the Burger King crowns.
Piece of shit.
I actually just printed one off online that's actually, it's a princess's tiara. That I simply added another thing to the base of to make it look larger. That extra strip of cardboard paper was the upgrade from a tiara to a crown.
So nice ones to have basketball. 2 blazers because,
And I never really got why Peter wanted to have the 2 blazers.
Wearing 1 doesn't make you posh enough, so wearing 2 makes you extra posh. Raising up off that street, yo.
There's only one moment where it's referred to, and that's he's got 1 blazer on, and when they're about to leave the room, Jeffrey helps him on with his other blazer, and that's the one time you see that he's wearing 2 blazers.
Pretty much the entire film I was wearing black trousers, and suddenly that One time Nigel goes out and he puts joggers on. That was the first day we filmed and we hadn't actually decided what trousers I'm wearing.
You look like a dead pelican.
In comparison to Nigel, Jeffrey is very scruffy looking. Open shirt and the belt and the t-shirt that was left over from when I was 14 stone, even though at the time of filming I was 11 stone. And of course the waterproof, which kept me warm during the winter months and kept me baking hot during the final months when it was the summer. I can't even really remember, so what was the reason? Why did I have an iron brew sticking out of my coat pocket? I think it was just some way of associating me with the fact that I lived in Scotland. I was born and raised in Scotland, so I was like, oh, he carries around a bottle of iron brew. Symbolism! There was times when it was a complete pain to have. Whenever I had to run, whenever I had to bend down or whatever, it would always fall out. So you can see me many times. I have to sort of go like this to make sure it didn't fall out. So when I'm running like that.
I think I wore the same jeans for both characters. I wore a pendulum t-shirt which had like this weird little circle thing. I thought that would make Ivy look a bit psychotic and menacing.
The t-shirts I wore for each character were picked at random. I distinctly remember wearing the Pulled Up With Horses one, which was grey, and then we ended up shooting it through the summer. And I remember thinking, fuck, I'm the sweatiest person. And it was quite like a thick grey shirt, and I was like running around in black skinny jeans and stuff, because that's just the stuff I happened to wear at the first shoot. And so then I was locked into that outfit.
Oh, how unfortunate.
Not really.
So by December 2011, I had a cast, I had a camera, I had a tripod, and I had lots of ideas for the script. So it was full steam ahead. Like the Titanic.
Not to his discredit at all, but something that was interesting about the film was that it was a script that was written, and we thought, okay, we'll go with that, rather than re-edits and that kind of thing.
We went with the first draft, we never read through it again and again to really finalise it and just to make sure the jokes were better.
You're thinking of 3, aren't you?
No sir, 8.
And half of 8 is?
3.
Excellent.
We could have all just read through it a couple more times and then shrunk it down so it wasn't 2 hours and 26 minutes of pure shit.
Not to sound mean or rude, but it was very amateur.
You know, you get a lengthy sequence of Nigel and Jeffrey going on and on and on and not being really that funny, trying to make some point about some point. And then suddenly you get boom! From a distance we must have looked like a very small sex orgy.
Probably smelled like a sex orgy too.
Just in case you fell asleep with how boring this all is, it's like, are you still awake? And then it goes back to being boring again.
The script was being finished as we made the film.
There's also parts in the film where there was a large gap of empty space after a joke had happened, mainly from the influences of Norrie's old style films where they would leave a gap for people to laugh. But of course this is HOBOGEDDON. Nobody's laughing. Nobody.
A problem with it was just that we were relatively new filmmakers.
Not bad for a first try, sir.
Fuck off, Twinkle Toes.
I think it was fairly obvious what the problem was. I mean, we had shine lighting.
I didn't have any lighting, so all the lighting had to be natural. And of course, as filmmaking 101, you learn is that the lighting is crucial. Because most of the film was filmed around winter leading into spring, there was tons of shots where the lighting is just manky, really, for lack of a better word. Because there was no sunlight outside. There'd be a few shots where the characters have their backs to a window, And the result of that is you get the actors just looking like they're in silhouette, and all you can see is white in the background.
The outdoor shots were pretty fine because there's light everywhere. Courtesy of the sun, thank you.
Sometimes we just thought, well, we can't do anything about it, really. Like, that was shot that way, and we don't have time to go back to it.
My boss may be a dumbass, but...
It was us, the actors, and we were directors and producers and that kind of thing as well. Obviously, Nora was the MVP of the whole film. But, and Peter was a close second, and Amy a close third. Dan obviously cared a lot. I was homeless at the time, I think. But I just happened to live in the area where we were shooting.
Personally, I don't think it's good if you're a director and an actor. You need to be one or the other because you lose the mind frame of director and then you lose the mind frame of being the actor. So the film can be quite muddled and messed. But Nori's directing was pretty good actually, considering we didn't really know what we were doing. We thought we knew what we were doing.
Some things went wrong, but if anything, it makes it more endearing.
I guess everything stems to the fact that we didn't have a budget. Oh, and the camera could have been HD. We want to see those goddamn spots on our faces, you know, we want to see them like...
When I'd edit a scene, I wouldn't render them in HD. Obviously, as I said, it wasn't a HD camera, so it was never going to be high quality. I would render them in a low quality because, as I discovered when I tried doing it in a higher quality, I thought, oh well, it takes 2 hours to render that 10-minute sequence or whatever. But if I do it in a lower quality, it only takes like half an hour. And I just think, what was I doing that was so important that I needed to have it done so quickly? The answer is nothing. There was a lot less going on in my life then as there is now, so I think... fucking dunce.
If we had a HD, we would clearly see Amy was a man.
What?
And George was a woman. And I'm a salamander.
And there's a lot of bits in the film where I think, was the error here caused by me being stupid or me being naive? A prime example perhaps would be the for rent sign. £30 a month. Now, I look at that and know that I made it that low amount, yes, because I wanted it to be such a low amount that people who had very little money, who obviously had no money, could say, oh, I guess we could just about afford that. But also because I had no idea how much housing cost. You know, I didn't have no idea how much it was to rent a room, which I could have very easily found out. I could have asked someone, I could have looked it up online, but I didn't.
Now I look like a bloody fool.
For any outsiders viewing the film, what it suffers from is not just that there's jokes that were for us, you know, that we thought, well, we'll laugh at it, who cares if anyone else knows what the hell we're talking about, or what we're referencing.
Noise Squad starts in 20 minutes.
Lovely day for a crap.
There'd be things that we thought, oh, well, you know, who cares? You know, let's do it that way, or let's not bother to do that. And a key example for that would perhaps be Peter's gun.
We were trying to make quite a compelling story about a killer towards the end of it. And the only gun we had was a clear blue plastic gun.
Obviously, that is not a real gun.
We were supposed to be afraid, and I was like, this isn't scary at all.
I could have just painted it black, but I thought, no, let's just use it as it is. And speaking of the gun, there's another moment there, I'm sure there's many, but I can't remember them all, that really annoys me, is when Amy has a saw. Where did you get that?
W.H. Smith?
But it's a, you know, it's, I don't even know what the hell you call it, but it's not, you know, when you think of a saw, it's not that type of saw. What really annoys me about that is that my stepdad's workshop is full of tools, gardening tools that could be used as weapons. I mean, even if it was just a hammer, I think that would have been funny, but it's just something about that. It didn't look right as a weapon. There was an axe in there, and I can't remember. Maybe I just didn't notice it. It's possible it was right in the corner, so maybe I just popped into the workshop and was like, oh, this'll do.
Throughout an entire film, Norrie knew exactly what was happening all the time. I personally had no fucking clue. So he'd be like, you're doing over and you say that, and I'd be like, yes sir. And then Peter seemed to be both at the same time. He seemed to be absolutely certain he knew what was happening, but also be the most clueless member of the team.
Who cares? I don't care.
There were 27 filming days. And that was spread over 9 months. We didn't live close to each other, or rather, Peter, George and Amy lived reasonably close to each other. To get to my house from where they live is about a 30-minute drive. And of course none of us could drive then, so it was if we had a parent available to drive them out to my house. A good chunk of the frustrations caused during the production were caused by the film's star, Mr. Peter Donald.
Fuck you, Jeffrey.
Most of the day's filmings would start around 12 o'clock, shall we say. And Peter sometimes was still asleep at 12 o'clock because he'd been up till 4 o'clock in the morning playing video games.
Peter was very unreliable. Sometimes we'd be at Norrie's house and we'd be like, where's Pete? And then me and Norrie and George would sometimes be there for like 2 hours before Pete would turn up.
But the other problem was that Peter found it difficult to remember his lines. In his defence, he does have quite a few tongue-twisting speeches, and in his defence and everyone else's, no one saw the script until the day's filming began. I wrote the script, so I'd know what was going to be happening. And then it was everyone turn up. Okay, here's one script between the three of you. Let's get cracking. I should have done it where I sent everyone a copy of the script. I could have done it over Facebook, for example.
I was like really tired and I just wasn't feeling it, and memory just kept telling me to do stuff and just be like, no, I don't want to.
A criticism of my own direction, I think, was that I wasn't concentrating enough about where the characters were supposed to be looking.
I've been thinking.
Oh dear. And there's quite a few times where we're standing up, and so we're looking straight ahead when we should have been looking down.
But who won the game?
What game?
The card game.
Norrie failed to give me some definite instructions of what he wanted from the film, or what he wanted my actions to be. I'm supposed to chuck dynamite in through a window. I'm just throwing the dynamite at the window, and Norrie's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know, you didn't tell me what to do.
Not criticising Norrie's directing whatsoever. Maybe criticising Pete and George's attitude to taking directions.
I don't care.
Norrie, I hope you die.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think Norrie did a good job.
The benefit I've had of rewatching the majority of the footage while making the, shall we say, remastered compilations of the best moments of HOBOGEDDON is that I've discovered either conversations or just behind the scenes events that I completely forgot about.
I broke Peter's blinds during making the film.
You broke my blind!
Fuck you! It was intended as a joke, and he didn't take it as a joke, and I actually thought that was funnier.
Put a sock in it, Simon.
I think perhaps the best thing to happen while we were filming that I'd completely forgotten happened while we were filming is this moment.
You ready?
No. Yeah. Oh my god! Hockey and ice cream man, it'll turn off.
Ready?
Yeah.
That is pretty jazzy music. Right, go.
Not slightly.
Now there was the one scene where we are walking down a lane, and on that day I'd already been up for about 18 hours by that point, and then so everything was literally 5 times worse. Remembering my lines was like out of the question, I was just sitting there stumbling like an idiot going, oh.
We did have the scone debate. I think it's scone. Nori thinks it's scone. So I had to put scone in the film, even though it pains me.
You ate my scone.
But I think my favourite behind the scenes thing that happened that wasn't recorded at all is when we filmed the scene at the college.
That was the best day because we had like everybody there. We had Dan, we had Nori, we had George, me, Gina, Amy, everyone.
Peter showed up for that day's filming bursting for a shit. And I said, okay, well, go into the college and take a shit in the toilets. And he's like, no, I've never shat in a public toilet, and I'm not going to do it now.
I was full of fear. Fear!
That's my favourite moment, because other people's discomfort brings me joy.
I also remember being tied up with a hoodie. I remember at the time thinking, this would definitely work. Like, that's it. Trapped for life.
I remember being in Nori's lounge, and I was wearing socks because I took my shoes off because I was being polite. I think I fell over copious amounts of times during a fight scene where all of us were fighting one another. I put a chair over Lupin's head, and the amount of times I hit the ceiling or hit Pete's head. Yeah, it's funny.
The worst scenes. We best end the interview here because otherwise it's going to go on for about 4 hours.
Quite frankly, the first half of the film does not need to exist. Really, the film could have just and should have just started with, Nigel and Jeffrey. We don't know who they are, why they are the way they are, which is what I try and establish in the first fucking hour of the film.
Far too much filler material. I mean, if this was a tooth, we'd be like, nah, mate, it's over.
The first half is wandering down the street towards the plot.
The second half of the film is by no means perfect. There are some scenes that aren't very good, but I think it's just is better because it's more of an ensemble piece. It's not just long scenes drawn out between Nigel and Jeffrey. You've got Ivy, Velociraptor, and of course Lupin.
Well, the intro credits were pretty fucking terrible, as they went on for way too long, and I just want to cut my face off. Especially to the chipmunk version of Eye of the Tiger. The first scene after that, when Jeffrey first comes up to Nigel and hands him the food, there's a couple of funny moments, but overall it's not necessary.
The government should send us all phones that never run out of battery. Mine ran out of battery in 2 days.
The fact that we go to a horse and say this is dinner, I mean, most of that is pointless.
I suppose we could cut the head off and nibble on it when we feel hungry.
The worst scene of the film, I think, is practically the last scene of the first half of the film, which follows a sequence that I think is actually the best, or one of the best scenes in the film. The scene that's built around me having my face splattered onto a sandwich.
I've learned that walking up to a security guard and asking if I run out of the shop right now with foodstuffs in my sock will the alarm go off was not particularly astute.
The dialogue leading up to that moment is Jeffrey's long-winded, not very funny explanation of how he got caught by a security guard shoplifting, and it then leads on to Nigel, one of his many speeches about, I've got an idea. And even at the time, Peter told me, this isn't funny, and my reaction was pretty much, I'm the director and I think it's funny, so fuck you.
Damn it, Jeffrey.
Or maybe the car washing thing as well. I know Nora likes that scene, but he's a dick, so don't tell him.
I don't think there's a worst scene in it. I don't think it's a great film, but there's nothing in it that makes me think that's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, there aren't particular worst scenes, but there are some scenes where I'm like, that was a bit pointless. or that was just added in there for comedic value but not story value. It didn't happen too often, but if it were to be recut, I think a lot of scenes could be cut, and then the film would have been a hell of a lot shorter.
Overall, the film has like really minor funny gags ever so often.
The best scene of the film, I think, is the Whacker Jeffrey scene. No one really gives a shit about Jeffrey. It's like, oh, well, I guess it's my turn now. Boom.
Stop, this isn't right. Lupin and I haven't had a go yet.
I think my favourite joke, or my favourite line in the entire film, might be in the scene I think is the worst one. Where Nigel says,
This means I won't have to spend the rest of my life as a failure.
But sir, why quit at something you're good at?
though of course that shot is ruined by the fact Peter isn't doing what he was doing in the previous shot.
I like the Karamak bar joke because it sums up Nigel's character perfectly, and that's that he's a piece of shit who has no concept of needs and wants, and he's happy to let other people suffer because he's a fucking idiot.
Where's your watch?
I don't have a fucking watch. You swapped it for a Karamak bar last year, remember?
Well, it's worth losing that old family heirloom just to find out whether they still dislike Karamak bars.
And I thought that was actually really good element of character building in there, because you just think, wow, what a dick.
The scene where Nori was standing behind me and he shot me with the really tiny gun. That always makes me laugh.
Well, enough to 5 bullets, small enough to fit in that gun.
I am very glad you asked me that.
Actually, I withdraw the question.
Peter and George both said that their favourite joke in the film was,
I'm Fitzsimmons.
Oh, really? Sorry to hear that. Is there no cure?
I personally don't think it's that good of a joke. I think what's funnier is the fact that Nigel continues to forget or mispronounce Mrs. Fitzsimmons.
Hello, Mrs. Fitzsimmons. Mrs. Flux Capacity. Thank you, Mr. Snethweegis.
There was a scene where I had a gun and I think I killed Velociraptor, and then Jeffrey said something about Velociraptor being extinct, and that made me laugh, it made me chuckle.
I get it!
Another moment I really like is when Nigel shakes Ivy's hand and then Jeffrey reaches out to do the same, but Nigel slaps it away. And I just really find it funny because it does sort of come out of nowhere. It's like, oh, one of the people at this meeting is a girl. Let's shake her hand, except not you, Jeffrey. You know, it's random. It's random, and I love it.
I did like the "That's Not Funny" joke when George advertises his band.
Another scene was when we had the big fight with one another, and how some of it was sped up. How I perceived the film whilst we were filming, I thought it would be a lot more serious than it turned out to be. I mean, the finished product was a lot funnier and a lot more comedic than I initially thought it would be. I thought when we were filming it would be a little bit dark with some funny bits.
Throughout production, the only criticisms I was given were from Peter and George saying, you know, oh my god, how much longer is this going to go on for? Clearly, when I said we're going to make a feature film, they didn't pick up on the word feature. They thought, oh, so it's like a short film. Which, again, I didn't want the film or intend the film to be 2 hours long. You know, nearly 2 hours and a half.
The funniest thing that happened, though, was when we had our viewing party after the film was made and we didn't watch the film.
The first moment we realised we made a shit film is when we planned to have like an opening night with all the actors.
One of us decided, probably me, that we should have the screening at Amy's house, since she was the only member of the crew who we hadn't used her house for filming at all. Put the film onto DVDs and handed them out that day. And we all sat down to watch the film. Except that Amy was using her laptop or iPad, I think, and George was sort of chatting to her.
Then we decided to play Just Dance instead, because at the time it seemed like a better idea. And that kind of sums up the whole experience, really.
Now it was on a big TV screen, the inadequacy of the picture quality and the sound quality really shone through in a way that it didn't on my computer monitor. So that wasn't too good. That was a realization of, oh fuck, this looks kinda shitty. We all had seen the film before. We'd film a scene, and then the next time when everyone came over to film another scene, I'd show them the scene we'd filmed edited. So everyone had seen the film in different sections. They just hadn't seen it all together. During the screening we just started, let's just skip ahead to some scenes that we actually all think, yes, this is a good scene.
We had hope. Up until then, we had hope. Hope was still there. Then that happened and we were like, we've wasted 9 months of our lives.
Well before the screening happened, I had been given some voices of concern, not by friends or family, but by college tutors at college. Because, as with the first year, in the second year, in the video production class, it was make a short film or write a script. And so, once this assignment was announced months and months before, I thought, oh, well, I'll just submit a scene from HOBOGEDDON. The scene I submitted at first was the robbery scene, not the first one, but the actual, with Lupin, Ivy, and Velociraptor as well. And I was told by the head of the department, we don't advise you to submit this, Nori. What even is it?
What the heck is this?
And I said, yes, it's a bit taken out of context, but... And they're like, yeah, but if you submit this, it's not going to get a good grade, submit something else. So I thought, okay, well, I'll just submit a better scene from the film. So I submitted my favourite scene from the film.
Splendid idea.
The end result was, I got the worst grade in the class.
What?
And as you can see here, here's how everyone's doing. Norb and Ramdan lost with whatever low grade it was. And so that was a pretty hefty indication that not so much that the film was going to be terrible, but that I make very bad decisions. Because in hindsight, yes, it's hardly surprising they gave me a bad grade. I guarantee if I'd submitted perhaps any of the scenes in the film as just a script, then it would have gotten a better grade, I'm sure of it. Because, you look at it on paper and you say, well, interpret that as you will. You don't have to see it in its tatty glory.
I showed my parents some of the clips that I was in. I was a little bit embarrassed because, I'm not an actor. I've never acted before, and I was a bit wary about showing my parents me acting or attempting to act. But they found the clips really funny. They said they liked my acting and the acting of everyone else.
It was made a little bit famous among some of my friends that I was in this film and helped make it and that kind of thing. It was put on YouTube, and I sent it around a few people, hey, help us out kind of deal. There's one girl called Alex, I believe, really, genuinely really liked it. She posted on Facebook about how it was her favourite series or episode or whatever.
Share the film with other people. I have a reputation to uphold. That'd be fucking ridiculous. I mean, it's clearly, if I showed it to anyone, they'd be like, Peter, we're going to take you to jail now, because, What you've done is despicable. It's a war crime on humankind. So no, I haven't shown anyone. I think I showed my mum briefly, and she was like, "This is shit. The life's a joke. Kill yourself."
Yes, very witty again, sir.
I wasn't joking.
Oh. Several months later, conversations between George, Peter, and myself about the film, they started to become negative. You know, suddenly it just seemed like everyone was saying, "Oh yeah, but seriously though, Hobogeddon was shit." You know, or "Oh, Hobogeddon, what a big waste of time that was," right, Norrie? Oh, okay. Well, that's, the last nail in the coffin, if this film was made as something that we could all at least laugh at and enjoy. And if we're not doing that, I guess it was bloody pointless.
The things I would change about the film, I think the sound was pretty bad.
Not so loud. What do you think the name was a thing?
Knowing the things I know now, because I've been to university, if I knew these things now and put it then, I'd have done a bit more with the sound and the lighting, be a bit stricter with Pete, because we did get sidetracked a lot because of Pete.
What about the Batman? You have to kill the Batman.
Shut up.
Take the Batman.
Stop it.
We were at college at the time, so we weren't all free at the same time. So, but if we weren't at college, I think maybe move the filming maybe all together instead of so spaced out.
Would I fix Hobogeddon? Fuck yes. Get me a blowtorch, some pliers, and a hammer.
I don't think I changed Norris' direction. I think that made the film in a way. It's what brought it all together, because none of us at the time had the work ethic to really make it work besides Norrie, and he helped us do that. / forced us.
I would much rather, if I could go back in time, have done something completely different. Take some of the scenes and turn them into sketches. Perhaps Nigel and Jeffrey could have been recurring characters in these sketches, but at least much shorter projects.
I remember feeling like I personally could have put more into the film, like I could have tried to help out more, but I also didn't really know what I was doing. I sort of turned up, was told, etc.
It was my script, but I would often, if they wanted to do an alternative line or they wanted to do an alternative action, I would let them do it.
I think one thing we could have benefited from was a revised script and a greater planning beforehand.
Yes, there's a lot I would change about it. First of all, I think I'd make it a collaborative effort in terms of script writing.
Cut out most of the beginning part, because that's a load of bollocks.
I sometimes wonder where we get the strength to carry on.
You're not carrying on, are you? You're not snatching the last few forbidden happy memories, are you?
I'm not snatching anything.
That's a good boy.
Probably throw some more characters around.
Would like to have been more characters. Maybe I could have, as I mentioned, Gina was a possibility of being involved in the film. Though of course she did appear in it in a hilarious cameo, though not as hilarious as Dan's, because we got to tell him to bugger off.
Bugger off!
Get it down to a nifty 1 hour 30, maybe 1 hour 45.
I don't think I'd change much about it. I like it the way it is now. I like the kind of it's such a cult favourite, but even the cult don't know about it.
My feelings on the film are that it was good to get us all started in the filmmaking process. It made us realise how long filming does take, how the script should be written and how it's delivered, how it should be directed.
It was fun to make, but was like acid to the eyes.
Aha! Very witty again.
At the end of the day, the film obviously was never going to be a hit or anything. It wasn't going to be worldwide acclaim. But I've had a really great time filming it. I think that was the kind of film I'm glad we did, just so we'd have that experience together. I still think we should all get tattoos of the names of the characters in it. It would be so not worth having. It would always make it worth having.
To me, looking back on it, I see it as a big wasted opportunity. I don't think I can't see at the moment having an opportunity again where I'd have a group of people with all reasonably free schedules to take part in a filming project.
Overall, making it 10 out of 10, watching it 1 out of 10.
There are a lot of good moments in the film. It's just finding them, because one, it's a 2 hour and 20-minute film, and of course that also finding them involves shoveling through piles of manure.
You're sifting through all the shit to find the nuggets of gold in the film. And when you get those nuggets, man, are they delicious. Golden grahams all the way. Man, I could do some Ribena right now.
Although the film is, blatantly an amateur film, but we put a lot of effort into it. And we definitely learned a lot.
I don't regret making it. I don't think it's going to. I'm going to look back and think, damn, those were days. But I think that it was something that I'm kind of proud of making, and it's like led to good things, like conversations about kind of thing. It's like even giving you like experiences of making a film, knowing it's not as simple as writing down stuff on a paper and going, let's film it.
It's ruined my life. Ruined my life. No! This is the end.
Get it? Because the Titanic sank.
And the rest is history.
But seriously, arrest Dan.